Why do humans kill? Hello everyone, and welcome back to our Hello US Rise with Purpose channel. Today's topic is a little dark, a little heavy, but perhaps no question in human history is more fascinating than this one. Why do humans kill? We see crime documentaries every day, we watch thriller movies, we hear about violent crimes in the news. But one question keeps coming back to our minds. Why? How can one human being take the life of another human being? What really happens inside the mind of someone who commits murder? Today, we're going to explore this complex subject, not through emotion, but through the lenses of science, psychology, and history. So, let's go deeper. The survival instinct. Let's begin with our DNA. It may sound strange, but from a scientific perspective, humans possess a powerful survival instinct. Thousands of years ago, when humans lived in small groups and depended directly on nature for survival, competition over food, territory, resources, and mates could literally become a matter of life and death. Conflict and violence were, in many circumstances, part of the struggle for survival. Our brains also contain systems that respond rapidly to danger. One important structure is the amygdala, which plays a major role in processing fear and emotional threats. When the brain perceives danger, it can trigger the well-known fight or flight response. Of course, modern human life is very different from prehistoric life. We no longer have to fight over every piece of food or territory. But some of the ancient biological systems that helped our ancestors survive are still part of us. When someone believes that their life, identity, status, family, or rights are seriously threatened, those primitive defensive responses can sometimes become extremely powerful. The psychology of violence. Now let's move into clinical psychology. Not every human brain works in exactly the same way. Some individuals have severe difficulties with empathy, emotional regulation, or feelings of guilt and remorse. When we talk about extreme offenders, we often hear terms such as psychopathy or sociopathy. However, it is important to understand that these terms are often used loosely in popular culture. Psychopathy is not simply another word for killer, and most people with mental health or personality-related difficulties are not violent criminals. Research into psychopathy has found differences in brain functioning involving areas associated with emotional processing, decision-making, empathy, and impulse control. In simple terms, some individuals may have a significantly reduced capacity to experience or respond to other people's emotional suffering. When empathy and remorse are severely impaired and other risk factors are present, a person may become more capable of treating other human beings as objects rather than as people. And that loss of humanity in the eyes of the offender can play a major role in extreme violence. But are all killers born this way? Absolutely not. This is one of the most important things to understand. Not every person who commits murder is a psychopath, and violent behavior does not come from a single cause. In many cases, violence develops through a complicated interaction between biology, personality, environment, trauma, social conditions, and life experiences. Poverty, childhood abuse, neglect, exposure to violence, substance misuse, social isolation, and repeated traumatic experiences can all contribute to aggressive behavior in some individuals. This connects with ideas from social learning theory. The basic idea is that people can learn behaviors by observing the world around them. If a child repeatedly grows up seeing violence being used as a normal way to solve problems, violence may gradually become normalized in that person's mind. But this does not mean that poverty, trauma, or abuse automatically creates criminals. Millions of people experience hardship and never become violent. Instead, these factors can become risk factors when combined with other vulnerabilities and circumstances. Dehumanization. Another powerful psychological factor is dehumanization. When people stop seeing another person as a human being with feelings, dignity, and a life of their own, it becomes easier to justify harming them. Instead of seeing someone as a person, they may begin to see them as an enemy, a threat, an obstacle, or an object. History has repeatedly shown how dangerous this process can become when individuals or groups are portrayed as less than human. Once empathy disappears and hatred takes its place, violence becomes much easier to justify, and that is where tragedy begins. So, why do humans kill? In the end, there is no single, simple answer. Human violence is an extremely complicated combination of biology, psychology, personal experience, and social environment. Some killings may involve self-defense or perceived threats. Others may involve anger, revenge, criminal motives, mental denial,